Start streaming on YouTube. Let's see if it's live. Can't really see pictures. Okay, there we go. Live on YouTube. What's up, everyone joining the live on TikTok? Hopefully you can hear me, guys, on the TikTok. Dual streaming across YouTube and TikTok. Bi-weekly live stream. Today we had a red day, so interesting. A little bit of two-way action finally. We'll see if that kind of continues. Honestly, we got that sell-off at the beginning of today, and I was thinking, okay, we got some room for some downside action, but we kind of bounced off that like down 1.3% on the S&P 500. Not that one day means anything, but if I'm looking at the S&P 500 chart, it looks like it wants to go down. It's looking for reasons. That's what it seems like to me. What's up, guys? Let's see. Can I see? Is sell-off due to crypto? No, I don't think the sell-off has much to do with cryptocurrency. Honestly, I think the sell-off has more to do with the news about Yellen saying rates may have to increase or rise a little bit just to keep from the economy from overheating. But honestly, like the rates increasing, first of all, it's coming from Janet Yellen, who's not even the chairman of the Fed. So she's just basically kind of talking out loud. So it's nothing official, but I think that really gets people thinking about, okay, if they increase the federal funds rate, that may have a ripple effect on some of these companies that need debt to grow, or just about the economy as a whole. So I don't think crypto is any reason that there's a sell-off. If there's anything related to a crypto sell-off, it'd be Coinbase, which it's interesting. If you look at Coinbase, and actually let's just pull it up. If I look up at Coinbase, remember that thing IPO'd around like 420? It's currently at 280. I was honestly kind of thinking about buying Coinbase if it got to like that 250 level, which I think was it 250 or 265? Basically, I was a little curious about buying it at a $50 billion valuation. So we'll see. Daddy chill. What up, guys? Bought Facebook at 254. I should have bought more. I should have bought more with you, man. Facebook's already my biggest position, though. So honestly, loading up on more Facebook, I didn't really think about it. It was more of just like, okay, I'm going to hold on to the current position that I have and see what happens. Do you think BLK is a growth or value stock? I'm not sure what BLK is. Oh, BlackRock? No, it's definitely more of a value stock. I mean, they're a company that, well, I guess it depends on like what they're investing in. But it's an asset management company, so realistically, it depends on how aggressive they are with their investments. What's up, Fernando? Got a couple people on YouTube, or one. What's up, guys? And as part of it, our bi-weekly live streams, we're doing trivia on YouTube if you want to participate there. And then also the benefit is you do get to see my screen if you care about looking at what I'm looking at other than just my face. GME predictions. I haven't looked at GameStop in the longest time. So I couldn't even tell you where GameStop is. I never got involved with GameStop. I never bought into it. I just talked about it because it was pretty entertaining. I'm honestly surprised it's still at this 160 level, but the reason I think it's kind of held its own is because it was able to raise some cash. And so now they have the cash after selling some stock to actually be able to transform, which is kind of funny. They basically meme their way into the ability to transform the business, which is cool. So like I would right now as a GameStop shareholder, if you are, I'd be more excited about their ability to actually transform versus, at the beginning of the year. What happened to Doge? How is it worth more than Honda? Dogecoin is, one of those things where the internet has collectively agreed to make people some money off of a meme. I honestly am very surprised where Dogecoin has gotten to. It's currently 54 cents. I didn't think it would ever get this high. But then again, the crypto markets are very strong. There's a lot of money flowing around. And then I think the success of, like SafeMoon and Dogecoin and all this other stuff, all this money that's kind of thrown at these different projects that may not necessarily have as many new functionalities or anything like that. I think Dogecoin is it's a pure gamble. I mean, who knows if it's going to go up 10% or crash 50% tomorrow or go up to $1. I was actually going to talk about the fact that Elon Musk is appearing on SNL, and I thought this title of this article is pretty funny to me. Elon Musk's upcoming SNL appearance is fueling Dogecoin's rise, says analyst. I don't know who the analyst is, but the fact that Elon Musk has that much power over Dogecoin, and people basically think he's going to say something about Dogecoin. I can't talk tonight. He's probably going to say something or mention it, and it may create buzz around the coin. So it's like people are front-running SNL appearances by Elon Musk. So it's not even, a tweet, which is kind of how this all started. Sell Doge before SNL. I mean, for me, I would never own Doge. I would probably sell it, right now at like 50 cents. But that's just me. Totally up to you. All right, so let's start it off with one trivia question. Once again, this is going to the people on the YouTube stream, and it's actually a topic that I covered in one of today's videos that I posted. So what is the target interest rate set by the FOMC at which commercial banks borrow and lend their excess reserve to each other overnight? It's a mouthful. Basically, what was the whole fear today? What caused the market to go down? And I made a video about it earlier today, and it was, something to do with Janet Yellen. Vinny, you gotta say it on the YouTube stream. I'm sorry, but yeah. And re.liz. Yeah, that's the exact amount. We'll see if people can. No, not the amount. What's it called, Fernando? And then, for Vinny and all those people that are answering on TikTok, the trivia, I'm asking it out to everyone, but it's for anyone that's on the YouTube stream. But Vinny, you got it if you want to jump over. Yeah, Adam, you got it. Adam. The federal funds rate is what I was basically looking for. So yeah, Janet Yellen talked about the rates going up, and I mentioned at the beginning of the stream, that may cause a ripple effect. But that was, one of the trivia questions. Now, what that may cause was inflation, right? So the fear is if they don't back off on the federal funds rate, it may increase inflation. And you're kind of seeing that across the commodities. So crude oil today hit $66. I was trying to look at investing.com to look across all the different commodities, but I'm pretty sure, something I look at is steel that hit like $1,500 per ton. I know lumber's insane right now. Pretty much across the board for commodities are just insane price increases. So that's one of those things where it's kind of front-running inflation if they think it's going to happen. So if you're invested in some commodity stocks, or, I position myself to have something like VDE in my portfolio, so which is basically owning like ExxonMobil and Chevron. But commodities have had quite the run this year, in terms of price appreciation. Pretty nuts. Also today, I just want to talk about the VIX real quick. The VIX spiked to around 2175 this morning. Around 11 o'clock was like the pure panic moment. I was licking my chops. I mean, I didn't put on any new positions today in the options portfolio. I was kind of just sitting because I had some short delta. And then I didn't really put anything on. I was looking at Snapchat, but I probably got a little greedy, and I was hoping that it would really crash in terms of, you know, an RSI below 30 or something like that. But Snapchat had good earnings, you know, had a little bump after the earnings, and then it kind of sold off below the 50-day moving average. And then today it just got absolutely annihilated, like down 10%, which was pretty nuts to me that Snap, out of like all these different companies and decent earnings. I mean, the company itself trades definitely at a premium, but I was just surprised that it actually sold off 10%. And you did see an increase in the implied volatility rank. Tips for, let's see, is there any questions? Any questions from my YouTube people? 0.32. Oh, and if anyone was wondering what the actual federal funds rate is right now, or the targeted federal funds rate, it's 0.25%. Do you think the inflation can be stopped? Yeah, I mean, you can control inflation. Basically, the Fed can try to control inflation with certain policies. Teladoc dipped. Yeah, Teladoc, let's talk about Teladoc right now, because you know, their earnings, they basically met expectations, and they've definitely had a sell-off to, you know, this 158 level. I was buying Teladoc around the 170 level. So, you know, 158, not much has changed, honestly, with their story. I was saying that if it gets down to like the 140, 150 level, you know, looking to add a little bit to my position. But really, the market is coming after these names that have a lot of growth estimates built into the price. And it's across the board. I mean, Palantir, Teladoc, basically anything that Cathie Woods is invested in, they've been taken to the woodshed. Which is interesting because at the end of 2020, she was basically a god when it comes to any stock she touched. And then now every single article I see is just absolutely bashing her. She still had, you know, she still has really good performance, but it's one of those things that everything she touches now seems to have a sell-off. So she's lost the golden touch momentarily, but that's what happens when your entire portfolio is growth. Whereas for me, I have a sprinkle of growth, but not every single stock is, you know, 40% revenue growth and already trading at a premium. Hey, what's up, Funnel Clock? Adam, thoughts on where Ethereum can go long term and how important can it become, or how big can it become? Other crypto to look out for. Yeah, I was going to talk about Ethereum at some point, but we can talk about it now. I actually am making, or in the process of making, a YouTube video that I'll probably release tomorrow about EIP 1559, which is an Ethereum improvement plan to basically upgrade the blockchain and introduce like a new proposal around fees that people pay. And that, along with Ether 2.0, I think Ethereum is still posed to do pretty well in this bull run. So as long as the bull run kind of continues and we look across, you know, all the different crypto projects, Ethereum has actually become one of the larger positions for me. I mean, I only own, you know, pretty much three names: Bitcoin, Ethereum, and Chainlink. So while I am in cryptocurrency and I keep up to date, I'm not trading a ton of altcoins. I tend to kind of wait for it to get bigger and get more established before trying to take a bigger position. That's just my style. I know obviously there's been a ton of money to be made in the small caps, but for me, I've made the most money with Ethereum, and it has the most staying power. in terms of a lot of these names, there's a lot of competition. So it's just like, okay, if I'm betting on the 40th market cap stock or market cap coin, and that's Avalanche, I don't know. It may be replaced by something else and it loses 90% of its value. So I'm a little more risk averse when it comes to cryptocurrency, if you can say that. And I tend to invest mostly in the bigger coins that I know are established and will be around for at least the next 5 years. Hopefully that answers your question, Adam. But I am bullish on Ethereum still, even at its current price. Can we get to 10,000? I mean, 10,000 I think would push us to $1 trillion market cap. And then you kind of get to the point of the law of large numbers where, okay, how high can Ethereum go? Same thing with like Dogecoin, right? It's trading at 55 cents. Can it go to $1? Sure. But every percentage increase as the market cap's already huge, it becomes harder and harder. But with Ethereum 2.0 and this new proposal, the supply should also go down. Let's see. Any other questions on the YouTube? Kevin Ocho, Treasury going to borrow $400 billion this month. Is that an article you saw or something? Let's see. Other things I wanted to talk about. What happened to the hype behind Snowflake? Oh, also, if you could not spam your questions, it's not polite, and I probably won't answer it if you just keep on spamming. Phone o'clock. Last bull run, Ether reached 8% of Bitcoin. It's yet to get there now. When you say 8%, you mean the ratio? Like 0.08? Because I was looking for a ratio of around 0.1, personally. So the other stock I want to talk about, and another company I talked about in a previous YouTube video, was CRSR. They did have good earnings, but I did want to talk about something that I'm commonly seeing now with a lot of these companies, that they have a big beat in Q1, but the stock market doesn't really care. And the reason the stock market doesn't really care is because, okay, now that you don't have that COVID bump anymore in terms of sales, like your sales growth might fall off a cliff. And so these companies, you really have to think about, will this growth story continue with the company? So like for CRSR Gaming, will the gaming market continue to grow? And that's one where I believe it will. So will the growth of CRSR Gaming sales continue to be 70% year over year? Probably not. But will their earnings per share grow at a reasonable pace? And then also they're profitable and their PE ratio is pretty low. So it's just something interesting to bring up. Yeah, Funnel Clock 0.1 is a good top. Yeah, did you buy more, Fernando? I think I'm around 1.65% on my portfolio in CRSR already. Also, Logitech honestly looks pretty good in terms of like evaluation. So basically, Logitech and CRSR Gaming are both two plays that I feel like actually have some potential at their current prices. Okay, Danny, since you stopped spamming, I'll answer your question. What about Snowflake? Snowflake was one of those hot IPOs that came out running, and currently at $63 billion valuation. If I just look at price to sales ratio is still 53. So it comes down to how fast can they grow the revenue to be a reasonable valuation. The revenue is only $592 million per year. Their market cap is $65 billion. So their price to sales ratio is still insane. So realistically, there may be some premium still built in. Unless, of course, their revenue growth is so insane that you're talking about 100% revenue growth every year for the next couple of years, then they may grow into their valuation. But it's one of those things where I see it across the board still A lot of these growth names that were just getting bid up no matter what, they have premium built in. So the question is, will the market just ignore that premium and bid it up, or will it take it down to a more reasonable valuation? Same thing with like Palantir. What's up with the market today? I mean, this is normal pullbacks. Any day that we're down 1%, 2%, you have to remember, look back a month ago, at the beginning of March, the NASDAQ or just QQQ was at 300. It's currently at 330, right? So there's plenty of days where the market's down 1%, 2%. But if the market is up 10% from a month from now, I mean, these 1% days don't really matter too much. So for me, I'm always thinking very long term. I know a lot of people outside of my options portfolio, but a lot of people focus so much on the day-to-day. And unless you're a day trader or swing trading for positions, thinking long term really will help your mindset. What do you think of the housing market? Inflation, stagflation? Would you buy a home right now? I'm currently not in the market to look for a home. I would say if I was, it's just one of those things where if there's inflation, real estate should be a good protection for your money. So, I mean, I wouldn't have any hesitation really buying a home. I mean, right now I'm renting my apartment, so whether I'm buying a house or renting, I gotta live somewhere, right? Why, when a stock has good catalyst, good volume and low volume pre-market, but still in MO will go down? I'm not sure exactly what you mean, Sienna. Okay, Yuri, what do you think of Tattooed Chef? So I think we talked about this in the last bi-weekly live stream. Let me look up Tattooed Chef really quick and see if it's really moved. I don't think it has moved that much in the past 2 weeks. Currently trading at $17.75, 1.4 billion. It's kind of the same situation. The sales for the valuation is still pretty high, or the valuation compared to the sales is pretty high for a low margin business. So once again, if you believe the revenue growth in Tattooed Chef will be massive, then it may make sense. For me, I'm not touching it unless probably around that like $11 range, $11, $12 on Tattooed Chef. Maybe I'd be interested, but 18, I'll wait for more of a bargain. Biggest competitors to Tesla in the EV market. Honestly, I don't have an answer for that. I don't know the technology that good related to the EV markets. I would guess. Yeah, I'm not even gonna guess because I just don't know the tech side of the EV market. But I do know that. Let's talk about the EV market actually momentarily, because we kind of saw the same thing. There was a lot of hype around these EV companies, and it boosted a lot of them, and they've really stagnated as of this year. If you look at something like NIO, that's down year to date. What's Tesla doing? Tesla year to date, flat to down. It's down. And then you have like, what is it? XPeng, year to date, down. I think the only ones that may have been doing okay year to date was companies like Ford and GM. And I think part of that was Ford and GM actually didn't catch a lot of that bid of the EV companies until later. So GM, Ford, they were kind of looked at these dinosaur companies that weren't going to transform. And then what happened with Ford and GM, actually at the beginning of the year, were probably decent buys compared to the NIOs and the Teslas, just because they didn't get that EV bid. So once they started announcing, we'll focus on the EV market, we'll start building out more cars that are capable. That's when GM and Ford actually outperformed a lot of these other hype names, I would call them. So NIO, Tesla, Xpeng. I mean, you had companies like Nikola that I don't even know where Nikola is now. That was the biggest scam company ever. Nikola, $10.81 or $4.23 billion market cap. I mean, for being worth $4.2 billion, Nikola still doesn't deserve that valuation. But yeah, overall, I think the EV market will do fine in the future, as a whole, but it definitely got bid up a lot in 2020. What type/sectors and investments do you mainly concentrate on? So most of my investments are in the technology sector. So for my portfolio, it's around 50% tech, around there. And then I do spread it out across the rest of the sectors. So if I compare myself versus like the S&P 500, I'm probably more leaning towards tech, and then I shift around where I am in the sectors depending on kind of where I see us in the business cycle. So for instance, like commodities, I shifted a little bit more investments towards commodities with, the inflation concerns. I shifted a little bit more money towards energy than the S&P 500 because I believe, with oil prices around the $66 mark and these companies being beaten up a ton last year, there's some potential value unlock there in energy. At the beginning of the year, I was more bullish on financials. They've kind of gotten bid up as well, so they're more fairly valued. But I'm looking for sectors outside of the technology realm that have kind of been beaten up, and then I'll rotate a little bit more into them. Whereas technology as a whole, already 50% of the portfolio, so I'm not going to increase it to like 80% because I think there's still value that can be extracted in sectors outside of technology, right? You have sectors that actually can implement technology and increase their earnings and grow that may have more potential than tech companies that have been bid up a lot. Thoughts on Apple? Thoughts on Apple? What has Apple been doing? I mean, Apple had an amazing earnings, but that's pretty much across the board in terms of big tech. I mean, Apple, Google, Facebook, all of them crushed it. Apple trading at 127, it really hasn't fallen off that much. What's 4%? For me, with these big tech companies, falling off 4%, it's not really a bargain. If you start to get like a 10% sale and the trend is still there, I mean, Apple is one of those companies that I'm just going to hold on forever. How long does it take to learn how to read 10K and 8K reports? Sayed. Good question. I mean, it just really depends on how fast you can learn about financial statements and kind of just the accounting lingo. There's a lot of good websites out there that you can learn for free. There's like accountingcoach.com, accountingtools.com. You can always get a textbook or something like that. Or, you can also read through a 10K, 10Q, see kind of areas that you don't understand. Start reading through it, go through kind of the executive summary, and then start looking at the financial statements. And if you don't understand a word, just Google that one specific word. Just by doing that, you can build up, piece by piece, kind of the information that you need to understand in order to maybe get some insight. Adam, do you like healthcare stocks like J&J or Pfizer? Yeah, I like J&J, probably slightly better than Pfizer. So J&J, they had good earnings. They're still growing. They have a decent dividend. And realistically, it comes down to J&J growing at a faster pace than Pfizer. So if you look at Pfizer, I believe, 10% EPS growth over the next 5 years. I don't think their sales are increasing that well. I mean, Pfizer and J&J are probably going to be slower growers, but they're still companies that I wouldn't mind owning. Like Johnson & Johnson is a company I've been looking at. I didn't scoop it up yet, but in terms of valuation versus their earnings and their earnings growth, I personally like both those companies. I think are relatively safe. They have good dividends. I like Johnson & Johnson and Pfizer, both of them. Oh, another thing I want to talk about today was the fact that Twitter announced that they're buying a company. They're buying Scroll, the subscription service that removes ads from news sites. And I just thought it was interesting that they were buying this company. One, I'm pretty sure, if you have like ad blocker on, I don't love the acquisition itself, but I like the idea that they're throwing out that they could potentially get into subscription services, because I'm honestly waiting for that to roll into the earnings and see what kind of impact they could generate from subscriptions. Because right now Twitter's free to use, and when it comes to ads, I think they're probably last against like Snap and Facebook. Facebook is king when it comes to ads. But Twitter, I think, has to shift their monetization a little bit towards subscriptions, because I think there's some value to be unlocked there. So it was just interesting that they bought this company, even though I don't think they're going to, obviously roll this within the actual Twitter platform. But the fact that they're even looking at subscription services related to media just was interesting to me. Let's actually ask another trivia question. So what does DCF stand for in DCF model? And this goes to, like I said, everyone on YouTube. Sorry for everyone on TikTok, but I always do the trivia on YouTube. But you can still answer if you want to guess. What does DCF stand for in DCF model? And this is another video one I did. Yep, you got it, Fernando. The answer was discounted cash flow. So that is the correct answer. Well played. You're always getting them right, Fernando. Taking me down. Let's see. Thoughts on Biden tax proposals? I think Biden and the tax proposals is more of just politics in terms of talking really high numbers and then kind of coming to an agreement on a lower number. I don't think there's going to be any drastic changes. We'll see. I mean, for me, I don't like to speculate unless there's actually like a law drawn up and you have, evidence that it's actually going to get passed. Right now, it's all speculation on what the percentage is going to be, what the effects are going to be. Is it retroactive? I don't know enough to kind of have an opinion on it. I think it's just he's playing hardball like any politician. Says a outlandish number and says, listen, we'll go from 40% to, let's say, 28%. How about that? And then kind of both sides say, okay, that seems fair. We'll agree. Fernando, what do you think of the Warren Buffett and Charlie Munger annual meeting last Saturday? I actually haven't watched the whole thing. It's funny because I looked it up on YouTube and I was like, oh, maybe I'll check it out. And it was 4 hours long, and I was like, okay, not gonna watch it right now. So I haven't watched it yet. I saw some, tiny clips about Charlie Munger saying Bitcoin was terrible or disgusting. Something like that. And then Warren Buffett also announced his successor. I think Warren Buffett also made a comment on taxes and how people overreact to corporate taxes being increased, affecting consumer pricing. I haven't watched the whole thing, Fernando, but yeah, I definitely need to check it out. Actually, let's do one more trivia question. Charlie Munger doesn't hold back. He's savage. Well, he's also old. So I think at a certain age, I mean, I'm sure he's always been like this. You know, he kind of just talks his mind. But also the fact that he's older, he can just say whatever he wants, and like who's going to do anything about it, right? It's Charlie Munger. He's kind of stuck in his old ways, so the comments around Bitcoin or anything like that are kind of funnier to me because I don't think they really care. So the third trivia question is, who is the current chairman of the Federal Reserve? So the question was, who is the current chairman of the Federal Reserve? Powell. Yep. Yuri, you got that one. Well done. Yeah, so Janet Yellen is the Treasury Secretary, and Jerome Powell is the chairman of the Fed right now. And then Yuri, your question about what's my favorite stock? It's tough to say. Favorite stock? It'd probably still have to be Facebook, if I'm being honest. Facebook is still up there. I mean, obviously I'm talking my book a little bit because it is my biggest position. But Facebook and Amazon are probably tied for my two favorite stocks, even though they're already massive. I think they'll just get bigger and bigger. Unless they do something about, regulation around splitting these companies. I mean, these big tech companies, I just don't think people realize it's just monopolies. Like, you can't stop these companies. They're literally printing money. Let's answer this question here. Do you think the market is going to crash soon? No. I mean, when you say crash, I tend to think, 20% downside. I still believe that nothing has fundamentally changed about the markets. And if I look at something like the S&P 500, it's continued this uptrend. I think we're still in the situation where companies are improving their earnings. You can even look at this last quarter of earnings with a lot of these companies. They're coming out with really good numbers. So as long as the earnings continue to grow, you have the reopening of the economy. I mean, the interest rates are still very low. So, 10% pullback sounds reasonable, right? As Giordano is talking about, 10%, no issues. Like a 20%, 30% crash, I just don't see it happening unless something fundamentally changes with the market or you get some crazy change in policy from the Fed. But if they walk it down in terms of slightly increasing the rates, I mean, I think you'll get sell-offs when they actually do come out and say the federal fund rate is going to go up. I think you get a kind of gut reaction to the downside. But all those gut reactions, I think, can be bought. So for me, it's more about those opportunities create opportunity for short-term plays in like my options portfolio. In regards to my long-term portfolio investing, if you have a crash, if we keep on going up, I'm going to continue to average, my cost basis across companies that I think are still well positioned. So nothing really changes too much for me. Realistically, if there is a crash, that's good, right? I'm young. If I was older and heavily invested in the company or heavily invested in the stock market and there was a crash, I mean, that'd be worse. But right now, if we get another crash like COVID, which I don't think will happen, because all those crazy crashes, the ones that are 30% to the downside, I mean, it's something that comes out of left field. Unfortunately, I don't have a crystal ball. So if it happens, it happens. Otherwise, I'll continue to invest. And I think, 10% pullbacks is pretty reasonable. Let's see. Any questions from the people on YouTube? DraftKings. I don't have a position in DraftKings. That's another market that went absolutely bonkers in terms of online gambling. I mean, you got DraftKings, you got Penn, things like Caesars also has just been on a massive run. And what's crazy with a lot of these online gambling companies, like if you look at Penn or Caesars, the earnings really hasn't come through yet. And I don't really love investing in gambling companies online. The only reason I wouldn't invest in online gambling is I don't think they have any competitive advantage over the long term. And then realistically, they're just a middleman to connect markets. I think honestly, online gambling, there'll be huge platforms on Ethereum in the future. If you're talking about an online platform where it's kind of seamless, where the take of the house is really low, I think Ethereum could potentially rival a lot of these online gambling companies. Adam, question on, or you said thoughts on SPACs crackdown and regulations incoming. I didn't hear anything about it. We can talk about the SPAC market though, because I actually have a little watch list of all the SPACs I was watching. And the only SPACs I really got into, it's funny because I got in the tail end, sold some puts in Pershing Square. That's still at 24, so it's still trading above the net asset value. You got stocks like Ajax, which is one that I was looking at. It's currently trading at $10. You got SPRQ at $10, BTAQ at 10. Even some of these names that have announced that they're going to have a deal, or they basically announced an acquisition target, they're at $10 or lower. So they really came after the SPAC market. I mean, good God, did they took some of these stocks down. And all the premium got sucked out too of the options. So one of the companies I had sold a covered call in, because at the tail end of kind of the SPAC market exploding, I sold a covered call in ZNTE, and the premiums were decent. But as soon as I did that, pretty much it crashed to around that net asset value. And you can make your money back with those kind of stocks if the premiums stay high for the options, but they really didn't. They sucked the premium out. So I don't know about any regulations incoming. For me, it was just like there was way too many SPACs out there, and it was just there was saturation in the market to the point where it's like, everyone's mother was creating a SPAC. I could have created a SPAC. So maybe some regulation probably would be good. Okay, gonna ask a fourth trivia question. Let's see. So how many billions of dollars is Apple buying back in stock? So this was announced last week, but how many billions of dollars is Apple buying back in stock? IPOE. What is No, it's not 20. All you guys on TikTok are getting it, but it's the official answers on YouTube. But yeah, Giordano, you got it. Looper, you got it. You got to go higher, Yuri and Adam. Snoo, I covered that about the potential market crash. Oatly IPO. I don't know the details around Oatly. Yeah, Fernando, you got it. Yeah, the answer was $90 billion. But yeah, a crazy amount of stock buybacks for Apple. Just $90 billion in general is just insane to me. What are your thoughts on Marathon? Do you think Amazon will split? Well, I think Jeff Bezos made a comment about never splitting Amazon because I think in his mind, the stock split itself doesn't really do anything. So I don't think they'll split while Jeff is still the CEO. But once he leaves, maybe they'll do it. Because I've always said stock splits, yeah, it basically makes it's the same market cap but just more shares. But for whatever reason, it's seen as bullish, and companies do tend to go up after a stock split. The only thing I would like about it is that you take Amazon and turn it from a $3,000 stock to a $300 stock, then you have a potential to do more with options. Because right now, each option represents 100 shares. So if I'm trying to, play around with Amazon and like naked options, it's just not possible because the buying power is like 20, 30 grand. It doesn't make any sense. So I'm probably not going to do that. What do you think about altcoins? The only altcoins I have really are, if you consider this altcoins, is Ethereum and Chainlink. Those are really the only two. Otherwise, I just have Bitcoin. I thought Jeff Bezos did step down as CEO already. I don't think so. I thought he gave himself until like the third quarter of 2021. Because there was a transition period between him and the next guy. Andy, what was his name? I forget his name already. Yeah, I did hear about Bill and Melinda getting a divorce. Yeah, it's unfortunate. I don't think Bill would go back to being CEO. Also, you wouldn't want that for Microsoft. The current CEO of Microsoft has been doing a really good job of transforming the company to be set up for the next 10 years. So I wouldn't want to take that guy out. He's been absolutely killing it. As a Microsoft investor, I wouldn't want to take away the current CEO. Okay, and then let's actually ask the last question for the trivia tonight. So what company did Twitter just buy related to subscriptions? And if you've been on the stream the whole time, you should know this answer because we talked about it a little earlier in the stream. So we'll see if people are paying attention. As long as the float doesn't get insane like Apple has. Yeah, I agree. The Amazon split, it comes down to accessibility. But you also have fractional shares now. So if you have fractional shares, the only thing that it really changes is if you want to play with options. Because otherwise, you can buy Amazon if it's trading at $10,000 a share, $500,000 a share. It's fractional shares. It doesn't matter. The only thing it really changes, is the options. And Adam, yep, you're right. It was scroll. You nailed it. I think that was it in terms of the trivia. Let's answer a couple more questions, and then let's just keep on answering some questions if people have them. Oh, I didn't even know there was a Q&A section on TikTok. That's cool. Rate hikes in 21. Yeah, I could see rate hikes coming at the end of the year or so, as long as the employment numbers gets better. I think they may start to tease that they'll raise rates. I know Jerome Powell, he's been saying that he wouldn't do it until a certain criteria was met. I mean, if that criteria is met in 2021, I think he'll kind of have to increase the rates. Let's see. Any other questions? Alcohol. Oh, thanks. Thanks, Al. I think it's a psychological thing for retail investors, especially the more experienced people. Geronimo, I talked about Tattooed Chef, but I basically said I'd be more interested if it was like at $12. But right now the company's trading at a little bit of a premium. Okay, let's see. Any other questions on YouTube for my YouTube people? Is May a bad trading month? Now, let's actually look at the historical return for May. Because I don't think it's the whole saying is, you know, sell in May, go away. Let's see if there's a little nifty chart. Oh, darn. I was going to use Y charts and see if I could look back like 10 years. I can look at 5 years. Darn, I just wanted it to tell me what was the average return for May. I don't have the answer. I just know the saying is sell in May, go away, but I don't think there's any relevance to that. I think every May is going to be different. All right, guys, I'll probably close out the live stream if no one has too many more questions. But I appreciate everyone joining, and yeah. Thanks, guys, for watching. I'll see you in 2 weeks, as I normally do this every 2 weeks. So, peace out, guys. And for everyone on YouTube, peace out.